Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome. I am Shivani, and today we're going to be diving into April's astrology. So far in the month of March, we've actually had some pretty big astrological weeks, especially the last 2 weeks. They were like really big. Like, we had the Saturn move in Pisces, we have the Pluto go into Aquarius. The astrology was like every second day I was posting a transit on my Instagram. And I was like, okay, what's happening? We had the first new moon in Aries, we'll have the second one in this month of April. So it's kind of like an energy that is like continuing from the month of March. And as you know, we have began the new astrological years. There's a lot of this energy of freshness, right? And a lot of this like new goals, new aspirations, going in a new direction, in a new way. um, and if that's not still, you're still not there, there is definitely hope for it, right? Which was probably like not there, I think, when I just look back 6 months ago, or even like 3 months ago when we started the new year, apparently 2023. I think we've not felt this kind of freshness the way we are feeling it right now. And of course, because we are in the Aries season, the first sign of the zodiac, and the sun will move into Taurus midway in this month of April. So it's really, the flavor is like, really, we are gonna go from hot, from impulsive. After the new moon in Aries happen, we're gonna have the Taurus season, which is gonna be like really grounding, really stable, really reliable, gonna give us that strong grounding, which I think by the end of the Aries season, we kind of like start looking for it. Like, when the Aries seasons begin, or when the astrological cycle begins, the energy, like the first 3 days, I was like making the Aries playlist, the mood boards, and I was like, yes, let's do it, da da da. But then now I'm like, okay, I am probably running way too fast and I need to just slow down. So we also have, so let's actually begin. I don't know if we haven't yet. Today is 1st April as I record this, and it'll be up online today. Uh, the moon is in Leo, the sun is in Aries. So the way we kickstart the energy of Aries season, it's very optimistic. Um, it's very um, in harmony. Like, we are kind of like not so much in our fields today, but we are like feeling that fire, still feeling that fire to kind of like go after the things that we dream of, the things that we probably listed on out on the new moon. um, and that's good, because we then have the full moon coming in Libra, which is on April 6th. Before that, Mercury enters Taurus, so we're gonna go date wise, all right? uh, so April 3rd, Mercury is gonna transit Taurus. So from Aries, it moves into the sign of Taurus. And as you will see, a way of thinking and communication is going to shift. And at this point, I need my Mercury to shift. So if you would have noticed, when the Mercury is in Aries, the way we kind of like have arguments, the way we kind of like speak, it's kind of like not a very stable energy. I mean, we all have experienced this in the past few weeks, how Mercury in Aries kind of like tend to make us kind of like impulsive in our communication. Sometimes we want to say something else, but it comes off the wrong way, or the heat is too much, the fire is too much, and it's just kind of like, there's a lot of like, even when I mean things in the most kindest way, it just comes off in a very heated way. And I think it's taken me a few weeks to tune into that energy, because when Mercury moved into Aries the first week, oh god, the communication was like, why don't you freaking get me? But now kind of like got the hang of it, right? But thankfully, and I think, but every transit has its own beauty as well. I think Mercury in Aries gave us a lot of this flavor of um, just uh, speaking our truth, putting out what it is what it is, and letting people know of our needs, our wants, or just putting ourselves out there boldly, unapologetically. And that was very like a much needed energy, as I can speak for myself, and I think even for the collective, to begin the new cycle very clear on this is what I want and this is how I want it. We needed that Mercury and Aries energy. So now that the Mercury moves in Taurus, you would see actually your communication starts becoming more like kind of like you're gonna like probably think before you speak, as opposed to earlier where you're like just going on that impulse. So Taurus is more practical, it's more pragmatic. Taurus is more grounded, it's more earthy. So when the Mercury moves into Taurus, this is how communication or tonality is going to be. We are going to be probably thinking, we're going to probably, even the way we think, Mercury also rules our thinking. So the way we think is going to be much more structured, it's going to be much more grounded, would have probably proofs and evidences to back it up. It's got a lot more logic to it than probably when Mercury is in Aries, and it's more like a reckless action or reckless thinking or reckless speaking. But when Mercury moves in Taurus, the tonality and everything gets, the thinking gets very structured. I literally printed out the whole astrology thing. I don't usually do that. So it's very interesting how we're already kind of like getting into that energy, because see, it doesn't happen, right? Like today the planet moves into this placement, so you're just going to immediately feel on the effect. For some people it starts happening like 2 or 3 days before, or weeks or months before, depending on how big the transit is. So a lot of us might actually start feeling the eclipse energy already. Yes, April is the month of the eclipse. The eclipses are known to shift our pathways, so we'll come on to that. Oh, can you tell my Mercury is in Pisces? So yeah, we're gonna be going everywhere, but it's gonna make sense, so stay here. All right. So Mercury, when it transits Taurus, while it gives us this very grounded, very soothing, very energy to kind of like excuse me, to express ourselves. Like Mercury feels very home in Taurus, because Taurus rules the throat. So it really depends how okay you are with your expression, that you're going to really feel this transit, right? Um, the downside of Mercury in Taurus is that Taurus can also be very rigid, very stubborn, very too practical sometimes, right? And so we got to be like kind of like careful that we are not too rigid, we are not too stubborn, we are not too inflexible, like really leaving room for change, for flow, because we would be needing this month, okay? Because now, April 6th, the moon becomes full in the sign of Libra, okay? What's Libra? Libra is the energy of partnerships, it's the energy of balancing, it's the energy of harmony, marriage. It's about how can I share what I have with another human, with another person, with another being, organization, or whatever. And with the sun in Aries, we have this very interesting balancing happening, because, and it's gonna be there for a while, because later on 20th April, we will have the new moon in Aries, and it's going to be the first one to happen onto the axis of Aries Libra. So we'll have a lot of eclipses happening. We have an eclipse happening like every year, okay? But it's one of the first one to happen in Aries Libra axis. A lot of it is going to kind of like take you back to 2013-16. So it might actually already start with the full moon in Libra. It's also happening at, I guess, 16 degrees. Yes, let me check. The full moon in Libra is happening, yes, at 16 degrees, 7 minutes of Libra opposite the sun. So when you have that 16 degrees, it comes under critical degree. So it's one of the very important full moons, okay? You sowed the seeds. You might actually start seeing some progress already. You might actually start seeing some evidence, or probably your blocks might start coming up to what you planted the seed back in the new moon, or you might have actually more clarity, you know. You might actually have more clarity around things. I just want to check it if it's recording. Anyway, so when the moon is in Libra, so full moon are known for illumination. They illuminate the places which were dark before, right? So with the Aries season, we have been like very clear about who am I, where am I going. It's all about the self-centered energy, right? As the moon becomes full, we kind of like start considering about relationships, partnerships, collaborations, working with another person, working with another being, organization, as I said. And it's really striking that wonderful but very difficult balance, uh, because there's a tendency for us to either be all about self or either be all about the other. This full moon in Libra really demands us to kind of like start thinking about the external connections, the external relationships, but also being at the center, holding the center for self. Yeah. So that's what your full moon is going to be about. So don't get surprised if you actually start revisiting relationship themes or start revisiting places in your life, um, because it will bring up anything that's standing in your way of connecting fearlessly and openly with with another person. But that also know that that requires your sense of self to be centered as well in order to share that energy with another. Okay. 11th, April 11th, Venus moves into Gemini. As Venus moves into Gemini, Venus was in Taurus for all this while, so our luxurious mood board now turns into fun, quirky, chatty, community based, learning based hobbies. So that's the vibe for Venus in Gemini. Venus is the planet of pleasure, love, romance, beauty, and moving into Gemini, it becomes more social, you know. It again, the energy is going from self to the external. How can I share? How can I communicate? How can I express? If you see, the month of April has a lot of this energy of sharing and communicating and expressing. So as Venus comes into Gemini, and I believe it's going to be there till May 7th. Yes, it's going to be there till May 7th. So you are going to be wanting to kind of like do different things. You want to have fun engaging. You want to have new hobbies and communicate and find a community. That's kind of like where you probably feel more ease with, because that's where there is availability of that transit happening. So after 11th April, we then have Saturn sextile North Node. Saturn sextile North Node April 14th. Um, Saturn is the planet of limitation, but it's also the planet of growth. When it sextiles, and sextiles are harmonious aspects, so when it sextiles North Node, uh, it's really giving us the opportunity to tell us that you have cultivated that self-conscience, that self-reliance, to now move towards your destiny. You might actually find actual methods, you might actually find actual real methodologies or teachers or people who could actually guide you, like very practical talk we're having here, could actually talk you towards your purpose or your destiny. So watch out for that. Any guidance which comes through, any support that comes through, any new strategy which you would want to introduce in your life, business, work, whatever. And know that there would be really like plenty of opportunity to seek the support, because it would really like support you to move towards your highest destiny, your path. The North Node is about your purpose. So really, if you have been contemplating about your purpose, really like bookmark this date around and see what comes up for you. Sometimes uh, the best way to really like be open is to be in the present moment, right? uh, the more you're in the present, the more you're open, the more you can actually see the opportunities, the things. It could be probably something you read on the internet, it could be probably an email which lands up in your inbox, it could be somebody introducing a course. Like pragmatic practical tools, methods, strategies, teachers coming together to help you, because you have cultivated, like probably they were before but you couldn't take advantage of them. But this is when Saturn sextiles North Node, it's like telling you that you are actually self-reliant, you have done the work, you, so here, take this and create what you want to create, or go in the path that you're meant to. Yes. So after that, on 20th April, we have the big event, the first solar eclipse. We'll have the next one. We always have the solar eclipse and we have the lunar eclipse. So then the solar eclipse happens in new moon in Aries at 29 degrees, and having it happen in this late degrees, it's gonna be, so when in the later degrees, it's more like the sign of completion. It's more like the sign, but at the same time, there is a new beginning. So we would really be asked to really let go of certain things which we know can no longer come with us in this new chapter, in this new phase of our lives. It could be old habits, old people, old ways of doing things, whatever it is. And I feel like at this point, we are kind of like, okay, to let go of things which do not serve us. Like the resistance is kind of like because of all the previous transits that we've been having. Uh, Especially in March, actually, it's like there's no more resistance so much. So it's going to be the least resistance you have, the less resistance you have, the easier it's going to be. Because this is the part where the beginnings and the endings kind of like coincide. Eclipses are big moments because they always are a moment of revelations. They're not a time period to technically manifest or do things, but they are a lot. It's a great time to actually watch the show, because they always come out with secrets, they always uh show you the truth, they always kind of like make you see things in a different way also sometimes. So if something is not happening externally, a lot of times you can have these big breakthrough moments, aha moments, like whoosh, wow, that makes total sense, why I was doing that, or why was that happening, and now this is where I'm going because I've learned this. And oh, this doesn't make sense, so I'm leaving this and I'm going in this direction. So you can feel like a lot of directions shifting, you can see a lot of, but know that there's a lot of like this overlapping of ending and new beginnings, right? um yes. So that's the eclipse for you. Eclipse is more like an eclipse season, you know. We have the eclipse season starting from April to May. So it's not like the all the information is kind of like given to you on one single day. It's kind of like comes in pieces, and yeah, it's very interesting time. I am very excited about an eclipse. Yes, it feels chaotic on the surface, but it is also very revolutionary, personally, globally, but also very revelationary, if that's the word. Yeah. So this eclipse is also happening in the sign of Aries. So there is naturally a lot of impulse. There's a lot of like to want to be reckless, you know. And this energy kind of like encourages you. Like there could be a lot of like energy to take on that impulsive action, or to follow that impulse in a heart. And the Aries is like, sometimes you need that boost. So when the new moon in Aries comes around and gives you that boost, maybe be open to it. Maybe, like, don't resist it. As I said, the lesser resistance you have, the more easier it's gonna be, because at this point the universe is just not playing anymore. Yeah. uh, so yes, it's kind of like the take risk if you feel, take follow your heart, kind of like a very sacred full energy, right? It's like this. Actually, in human design we also have the transit happening in gate 3 between 16 to 21st, and gate 3 is called the sacred fool. It's about creating order out of chaos. It's about innovating. So it doesn't matter, as I said, eclipse energy may look chaotic on the surface, but it's a great opportunity. Know that it's one of the first eclipse in the Aries Libra axis. For the coming 2-3 years, it's gonna happen that way. So it's like a start of a new chapter. So it's like a long-term changes are in the works. Okay, so whatever is happening right now, like, know that, like, take it seriously. Yeah. All right. And then 20th, and then we move to Mercury, Sun transiting Taurus. The Sun finally moves out of Aries. We cultivate the Aries season. We say goodbye to Aries season with this new moon, and if the second new moon in Aries. So like, the energy of fresh beginnings has been super 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 ripe for us for this month, for this entire new phase of life. We're literally having an overhaul, like a absolute spring cleaning, and a new, like, you're moving places, sort of metaphorically. So a lot of us actually would be relocating, would be shifting, would be moving places. So see, how can you have fun while you do that? The sacred fool, how can you create and innovate in the midst of the chaos? Okay. And then we have the Taurus season. So finally the fire gives way to the earth. Finally we have more groundedness, more steadiness, more, like, I feel like Taurus season is like, you can take off your coats and just, like, finally sit down on your couch, like your home. Taurans are homebodies, right? Because you feel safe, because you feel like it's safe for me to take off these facades, it's safe for me to be home, it's safe for me to be me. Yes. My needs are being taken care of, right? And I can relax. So the Taurus energy is like super chill, but at the same time not so chill about the basic things. Like, they would want their needs to be taken care of first, and then they would chill. So this is the Taurus energy vibe. More like building, more like consistently building at a pace which feels good, which feels that you can sustain for a longer period of time, rather than how we were doing in Aries season with like 0 to 200. A lot of like my vibe. And now at this point I'm like really like, I would want to slow down and do things in a more sustainable way, because now I feel like I'm getting tired. So yeah, Taurus season is really like, it's not like a lazy season. Taurus is very hardworking, but in a way that's sustainable. At a speed that's sustainable, at a pace that is peaceful. But as I said, with Taurus, it's a beautiful energy as well. It's not too stubborn, too rigid, too inflexible, to open up to new experiences, new things. And actually, I think we had a lot of new stuff happened in the Aries season. For any want to face any resistance anymore. I think all our resistance has been melted away officially after this Aries season. So this is how the Taurus season begins, and before the month ends, we have the Mercury retrograde. So we have all the planets direct all this while, and 21st April we have Mercury going retrograde in Taurus. So it's gonna be in Taurus for much longer than usually Mercury is in any sign. More than 4 or 5 weeks, yes, because it's gonna go retrograde here. So Mercury going retrograde in Taurus, it is really asking us to just sit back and reflect on all those things that have conspired. How, like, it's kind of like, so again, I don't see, you might be like, oh, retrograde, I don't want to be stopped, I don't want to be interrupted, but I just I want to share this story, not story, like an example, but like, I wanted to make this video yesterday or day before yesterday, but then I got my periods. And then, of course, as always, as how we all are, we are like, oh my god, so mad, so frustrated. Like, why? Why are you interrupting my flow, my fire? I just want to like go all in. But my body was like, no, it's time to kind of like slow down, rest, relax. And I had to. Okay, I had to. I didn't have any choice. But also, it reminded me that it was an opportunity, not a setback. And similarly, the retrogrades can be an opportunity, not a setback necessarily. It can be an opportunity to kind of like step back, to review, to relax, to reflect. It brings out a lot of stuff from the past. It's known as the official exes are back in your life kind of a vibe. But that's so that you can look at those things from a very objective point of view. And with Mercury going retrograde in Taurus, you will have that energy to look at things from a very objective point of view, from a very non-biased perspective, and actually see things for what they are. Right? So when Mercury goes retrograde, you might find, like, obviously the basic advice is always still valid. Back up your files, take care of communication, recheck your flight tickets, all those things. Yes, it is known for causing communication, technological delays, chaos, and all those things. And you can like take precautions, but if it still happens, what is it trying to teach you? What is it trying to show you? That approach is so much more easier than being mad about it. Yes? So when things happen in the Mercury retrograde, as we are promised in astrology memes, then don't get mad about it. Try at least and see what it's trying to show you, what it's trying to teach you. Maybe it wants to teach you about communicating your needs more clearly, about informing people of your actions. Maybe it's trying to teach you about organizing. For me, that's always a lesson. Uh, uh, it might actually be teaching you how to look at things objectively rather than emotionally or recklessly. Say, uh, yeah, how can you look at things more objectively? And a lot of times when we are feeling a lot, or when we are, say, in an Aries season vibe, we can go like, we can just leave our objectivity at the back door. And when Mercury goes retrograde, it's like, the 3 or 4 weeks, it's like an opportunity to kind of like revisit and to course correct. I love this energy. It's more like a course correct energy. So don't be afraid to course correct. Don't be afraid to pause. Don't be afraid to change directions. This entire energy of April is presenting you an opportunity to be a sacred fool, to be a person who could do and take actions when they need to, but also do not mind to change their mind, to change their directions. And it can be a little hard when Taurus season comes to back off from something you said you would do, or to say, I need some time, or I need to feel through this. But it's all teaching us at the end of the day that we get to honor ourselves. We get to honor our own inner authority over anything outside of us. That's what all of this is really about, right? So, yes, April is really about striking that beautiful balance. The main character is the eclipse. It's the Aries Libra relationship of honoring the self, but still being open, receptive to another. That's the vibe of this month. And I must have said this probably 3 times in a row, but I'm saying it again. The less resistance you have towards shift, towards change, towards evolution, the easier it's gonna be. And I know I've said this, but I'm saying it again. All these transits have been teaching us to kind of like loosen up our grip on things, on situations, on our lives, and to allow that space, that little wiggle room for shift, for change, for magic. Yeah, for miracles. What happens if you just a little bit, not asking you to like completely like, just a little bit, loosening the grip a little bit and allowing life to support you, to take you, to hold you. And the whole idea is to do this thing called life easily. You know, it gets easier when the universe is here to support us, when the universe is available. Like, let me come and get you halfway. You don't have to do it alone. You were never meant to do it alone. And I'm sending you these people. I'm sending you these strategies, these teachers, these courses, or say these instruments to support this journey. So please, will you take help? And while at the same time, not forgetting who you really are at the core. Like, can we like, I really feel like this is like we are shifting out of that all in, all out, very Aries vibe. I have a Venus in Aries, and I know this to be so true in my relationships, and this is something that I'm really like honoring in my life right now. The sweet balance between self and selflessness. Not selflessness, but maybe that, yeah. Having that compassion, but also having compassion for myself. So, this is what this energy is really about. Libra teaches us the balance. So, specifically, this full moon coming in Libra, it will be teaching us that. And that's what actually the whole month is really about. So really hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope this serves you, this benefits you. And I'm sending you so much love for the upcoming season. And I'll see you soon.